Okay, so the first recording test. Lights looking good, camera looking good. I'm going to talk about the Fuji x100, and I bought the. Actually, when I bought this about a month ago, I bought this camera without straps. Actually, the straps were included, the black limited edition Fuji leather straps, but there were no little key rings. I don't know what they're called in English, but I could of course go out in my big jar of unidentified keys and grab two of these rings and put them in and mount the Fuji generic strap, but I thought, this might be the perfect opportunity to get myself a new strap for this camera. And I went googling on Danish sites for a strap, and this is what came up. This is called the Gordy Strap. This is like thick, robust leather. It's quite soft, but not very. It looks like it has to be, used and worn and weather worn, and for it to become real soft. But this gives you the opportunity to take it on a lot of journeys with you, and in a couple of years you'll feel like best friends because you've worn it in. I purchased the medium size. I haven't even regulated it here in the side where you can do that, because it actually just fits, and I'm really happy about the look of the strap, because what I saw on the web shop where I was buying it from is that this was like a bright brown with a little bit darker brown like this on top, and actually what ended up coming was a black one with this red painted red yarn, and it actually looks real good in comparison to or in complement to the leather case, which is also black and has the exact same red color, or not exact same, but very similar. So it actually gives it a completeness for a good walk around, good looking, feeling good camera. So, alright, thanks for tuning in. I am Thomas Christensen, aka Photog Nord. I have a blog, check it out, in the address down below, in the show notes on YouTube. But I'm here to talk about the my newly acquired x100 black limited edition. This will be a short walk around, a walkthrough of what I have experienced about this camera so far. Mind you, I have already owned the standard silver edition x100 and the silver edition x100S, and I have actually sold both of these cameras and went over to shooting primarily with my digital SLRs, but I noticed that my picture count dropped drastically when I sold my x100. Actually, when I sold my x100, I got the x100S, because that was the, we fixed all the quirks and non-functionings and the bad autofocus and everything that was wrong with the x100 was fixed in the x100S. It was faster, everything was better. But what they forgot to mention is that they, while building this new x100S, they pulled the soul out of the camera. It was like something completely new. It was a fake it might have been performing better in some ways, but it was a fake X100 in my opinion. So I sort of lost the feeling of using the X100S like I had before that used the X100 primarily for capturing family stuff at home. Every time we used to go for a walk to the playground, to the woods, to the farms, I would always bring my X100 and I would take pictures. The pictures would come out beautifully. The best pictures I've ever taken is with the X100, and that is, my dear friends, I'm talking about the initial firmware versions, like I can't remember now, maybe 1.10 or something like that. Now this camera has a firmware version of 1.30, which is the latest one, and it has improved a lot of things in the camera, but it still has its soul, which is very important. The black edition, the black limited edition, I bought this because, you know, I've had the X100, and how can I spice it up if I have had something once and I want to go buy something again, the same thing, or just buying a new camera, I want it to be a little bit different, and I thought, oh, this looks so great, this camera. It's black. It's got the case and the red inside of the case, and it's like, and it's limited edition. My model is 110 out of 10,000, so it's like a collector's item. Like I care. Somehow maybe I do, but for me the important thing was to have a camera that I would use again and not skip taking all the pictures of my family that I normally would, or when I went out with friends, stuff like that, where I actually didn't want to carry my DSLR. I actually bought the Canon EOS 660 to walk around with, and even though that is the smallest full frame camera that Canon has made, it was still rather large, and it didn't really do it for me. It still felt like going on a job, or like being a photographer, but this one is something entirely else. Let me talk a bit about the camera itself. It's very nice to have the X100 again. I personally really like the black look. It's really nice, but as I showed it to my wife, the moment that just a second. So as I was saying, when I showed this to my wife, and she's very candid with when I bring these things home, she said, "Yeah, I like the silver one better." And I don't know if it's because she was a bit pissed because she bought the original X100 as a wedding gift for me, and I just sold it at some point to buy the soulless X100S. She told me it's like changing the older model out with a newer, better one, even though I was still in love with the old X100. There was a lot of comparisons between husband and wife, boy and girl, and boy meets new girl, and actually she ended up being right. The new camera looked a lot better and ended up actually not being better. It was soulless. I guess you want the charms and the quirks of the original model. So I got this one again. But when she saw this camera, she was like, yeah, like the silver one better. And I must say, I agree. The silver one does actually look a bit better as a camera, but it's also more of an eye catcher, where this one is more anonymous. I see this more as a street shooter's tool. I'm wearing a black t-shirt now, and if I were on the streets and I were wearing this with the black straps, and now it's all shiny because I got my lights on there, but this is very much yeah, spy cam, a sneaker cam. Nobody would notice this camera, and it performs exactly like the X100. That's the great thing. One of the most horrible things about the X100S is that they removed this raw button from here, and they replaced it with a Q button to get into a quick menu on the camera. I don't know why they do this, because I never use the screen for anything. This camera actually has the dials on top. You see here it has the shutter speed, it has the exposure compensation, and it has the aperture adjustment ring here. So, and you also get, if you want a preview picture of what you have taken, to check your exposure, you can see that when you take the picture. Of course you can also use the screen for that, but all the menus, all the things that you can do, you wouldn't use that. This is a photographer's camera. This is not a classy point and shoot, so you wouldn't, oh, let me compose my picture and then go in and apply my super presets. No, none of that. This is like the this is a camera, a real camera. Video features, all that stuff, forget about it. It's useless. Another thing I want to mention about this camera is, of course, the sensor. This is the 12 megapixel sensor with the Bayer filter. The sensor before the X-Trans sensor that was put in the newer one, the X100. And let me say, I don't believe in a lot of things, but I believe in the soul of this camera and the pictures it takes, and they are definitely so much nicer for me to look at than what I took with the X100S. I thought a bit about this. I think it might be perhaps some of it may be just the pixel count. I like 12 megapixels on an APS-C sensor, just like I like 12 megapixels on my full frame sensor. This is my 5D, my primary DSLR. I also have the 5D Mark II, which is a backup camera for me. That also does video, if you're into that. I had the 5D Mark III, which I was really not happy about, and I sold it very quickly and bought the 6D for a walk-around shooter. And the 6D was, just felt as useless as the 5D Mark III. So actually I sold all of it, and I ended up repurchasing the 5D again, which I had sold. It's like I have what you call a steep learning curve. I need to acquire a lot of equipment, I need to use it for myself, I need to get smarter, finding out what works for me. And for me, it's, for some reason I ended up with two 12 megapixel cameras, one APS-C sensor, one full frame Canon. I'm going to do some reviews on this camera. This is like the wickedest camera ever, DSLR. What else can I say about this? I'm going to keep this fairly short, not say a whole lot more about it. I have a box full of filters for this camera also. I have the pole filters. I have the ND filters going from 2 stops to 4 stops to 10 stops, you name it. I was talking about something about the raw button. I don't think I actually finished that. So the raw button, when you have this, you can use this not to change between shooting RAW and JPEG, but you can reconfigure the button to actually use your ND filter, which is built in, 3-stop ND filter built into the camera. You can just press this button, it's on, it's off. I use this quite a lot actually while shooting at wide apertures in fairly bright conditions, and so I'm really happy to have my ND filter button back, which I never found a solution for on the X100S. They were like, press, oh, I got my quick menu, and I could go in and put on my ND filter or something else. But you don't want this. You don't want to use a menu with a camera like this. You just want the button. You want to push the button, and this does that. Also, the function button up here. Still, I'm using this as ISO switch. Usually, I set my ISO in the beginning of something, and then I primarily shoot in manual. I use my light meter to take a reading, and then I start shooting. Also, focusing with this camera is excellent. I like shooting the camera in manual mode, and while shooting in manual mode, I will use this button up here to focus on something, and when I get a lock, I can just shoot away, because this is a very fast camera to shoot with, except if you have your focus on the shutter release button. If you have that here, then it will try and focus between your shots, and then you might not get the shot you want. But if you use this one, you can just focus once and you can just shoot away by releasing the shutter button. This is something I think everybody will quickly figure out when they start using this. The autofocus in this camera is not perfect. Actually, it's far from perfect. But that doesn't matter. Who wants perfection besides the Borg? And I don't, at least. I want the soul, I want the magic, I want the exquisitely looking pictures. I want a camera that I want to carry with me everywhere. A camera that looks good, that I feel comfortable with, that I like holding in my hands, that feels solid. This camera has it all, and it's actually quite cheaper now after the X100S and now the X100S Black Edition. Not limited, but just Black Edition is out. Everybody wants that. Of course, there's the new Fuji X-T1, there's the XE2, there's the still the X Pro 1. I believe the X Pro 2 is not out there, although Fuji Rumors has released a lot of specs on it. Full frame, I heard, 3 new lenses. I don't care about that. But of course, I want to see what the X Pro 2 does. Because the X Pro 1 is seriously a nice camera. But that's not in this review. So I think I'm going to stop it here, because I want to do some more reviews about this camera. I also want to compare it with the X100S in terms of image quality and the soul, mojo, the edge, the X-file factor of this camera. So if you have any questions for me, drop me a message down below. I will happily try and answer it. But thanks for watching, guys. If you like my podcast, please give me a like below. If you don't like it, don't give me a dislike. I'll take it personally, but you can just come watch the next show. Thanks, guys. Bye. So actually another thing that another thing that I want to mention about this the Fuji x100 is that this is besides being a traveling companion, this is also a conversation starter. People who see this camera, they'll go, first they go, oh, is that like one of those old film cameras? Is it a Leica? Is it this? Is it that? This will instantaneously start a conversation about cameras with people that you don't even know. Bring it to a party, people will start talking about, yeah, back in the 80s I was also shooting, I had a camera, it was a Fuji, or it's like, it's so cool just to have this as a conversation starter. If I bring my DSLR to a party or something like that, people won't approach me. They'll just say, oh, I try that sometimes, oh, you have a 5D, I only have a 7D, so it's not as good, and they'll feel like inferior somehow, because I try to explain to people it's not about the camera, and actually the 7D is probably 10 times better than the 5D in terms of specs, because it's 5 years newer. Not enough about that. This is actually this is just so nice to have. I've actually made a very good friend because I went to the local organic fair trade coffee roast house called Just Coffee here in Jyllinge, where I met my now great friend Jon, who saw my camera. He was like, oh, what a cool camera, I want to talk cameras with you, I want to be your buddy, and we're just like this now, several years later, and this is also a part of the magic that this camera does. It's like, it bonds people, it brings people together to talk about photography, yeah, I think that you know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, just disregard those things. And of course, one very important thing that I would like to advocate right now is that, yes, if you find out the Fujifilm X100 will get you laid, just check out this test I did today. Hello! Total. Ej, okay. Du kan ikke starte med at stå og grine, fordi så smitter du mig. Kommer jeg overhovedet ind i her? Det er fordi, jeg skal lige have lidt længere op, sådan her. Okay. Okay, jeg kommer her. Oh, hello, total stranger, beautiful lady. I got my Canon EOS 5D. Would you like to sleep with me?
With a 5D? Hell no!
Oh man! Okay, good. Oh, hello, beautiful strange woman. Oh, stranger. How are you doing? This is my X100. Do you want to come home and sleep with me?
Oh, yeah. I would love to.
So you see, get the X100. See you guys. Thanks for watching.